Evening, y'all. Appreciate everyone joining us. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes to make sure we all get signed in, and we'll kick it off and get to work on this agenda. All right, y'all. If it's okay with everyone on, I'd like to go ahead and get us started. So I will call this meeting to order, this meeting of the Transportation Penny Advisory Committee for our August meeting. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the short notice and cancellation last month. I had something come up in my personal life that I was unable to escape from. And so we unfortunately had such short notice, we weren't able to scramble fast enough to get someone else to take over. But hopefully in the future, it won't be an issue, and we'll be able to continue the business of the committee. And so that said, I appreciate everyone joining us today. Allison, Kelly, did we receive any public comments that y'all are aware of or that we need to allow at this time?
No, sir, no comments.
Okay. Thank you all very much. With that, let's move over to the Office of Small Business Opportunities. Erica?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Erica Wade. I'm the manager for the Office of Small Business Opportunity. So since we met last, if you had a chance to go through the agenda and through the packet, as you can see, as far as our certification is concerned, we had 95 certified SLBEs at that time, but today we're pleased to report that our numbers, we're in triple digits now. We have 100, and before the end of the week, I think we should be up to 102. And by mid-September, 106, because we have some applications that's in the hopper. We just need to go through the certification process. And as you can see, in the areas of architecture and engineering, we have 9 certified SLBEs, 39 in construction, 11 in non-professional services, 33 in professional services, and 8 in wholesale. Also, with that being said, the team, what we're doing right now, we're surveying, we're all about opportunities, providing opportunities for our small businesses. So what we're getting ready to do, we're getting ready to survey all of our departments here in Richland County to find out what are the top 10 items that they procure. And what we've done, we've launched a campaign to try to bring in more vendors here at Richland County and also to get certified. So we're looking at the top 10 items in which each department procure. And those are the vendors that we're going to really target as far as bringing them into Richland County. We've had meetings with some directors already, and we've had meetings with procurement, and we're going to continue that campaign. And so far, it's been really good. Also, we're continuing to meet with our strategic partners like the City of Columbia, the Chamber, SCDOT, SBDC. We have meetings scheduled with the Women's Business Center. Just kind of leveraging, like I said, we're looking at our partnership again. Just trying to find ways in which we can provide opportunities for our small businesses, even with their agencies, and we're helping to promote some of the things that they have going on as far as projects are concerned. So, because sometimes, you just can't put all your eggs in one basket. If it's something that the county may not have, the city may have something going that our SLBEs can potentially participate in as far as bidding. So we're actually leveraging those relationships. Also, another thing we're getting ready to do is launch our internship pilot program. This is something we've been working on for a while. We're working with our colleges, surrounding colleges within the areas, putting together, like I said, our pilot program. We want to connect those seniors that's graduating from those programs, from the schools, with some of our SLBEs, hoping that these seniors could gain some hands-on experience in the field in which they're studying. So we're in the process of getting the approvals on that program, and hopefully we can roll that out pretty soon. We're working with community development. There should be some funding coming down. And we're working with community development on their CDBG grant. And we're hoping to roll those funds out sometimes in November. And they will be for small businesses that were affected by COVID-19 to just kind of help them sustain and move forward. And another thing we've been working on is we're relaunching in our business development area, being able to come in and get one-on-one business coaching with our industry experts. So if you want to figure out, how do I do a business plan? As far as getting my financial house in order, how can I do that? So that's something we're getting ready to also launch. And September the 8th, which is next week, Wednesday, we're excited about our summit. It's called Save My Business Crisis Preparedness Summit. We have a really good lineup. We have Mr. Tony Grant, who will be talking about crisis planning. We have Mr. Ron Harvey. He will be speaking about pivoting during disaster. We have our own Ms. Miranda from EMS here. She will be talking about emergency preparedness, like, for example, what's going on in New Orleans. Did you have an action plan if your business had to shut down or if it was destroyed? What's next? So we'll be covering things like this, even down to succession planning. We have Ms. Jessica Stalker, who will be talking about succession planning. And as of to date, I think our number is at 167 registrants, and we still got another week to go. So our goal is for 200 or more, and looks like we're going to reach that goal. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions?
Seeing none, I have one. This is something that you mentioned at our last meeting, was a goal to enroll another 60 new SBEs by the end of the year. And it sounds like we're making good progress. I see the first 10 out of the way, so that's a good sign. How you feeling about the goal? You feeling like we're gonna get there?
I think we are. I think we are.
Very good. Just looking through my notes here. Great. Any other questions from anyone else on the line? Seeing none. Erica, thank you very much, as always. Very good. With that, I'll turn it over to Allison to take us through our transportation update.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I do have a few things to add to what is in front of you. We had a few new updates since I put this report together and gave it to Kelly last week. So just to run through, we anticipate having our next ad hoc meeting on September 28th, our committee meeting. We do have Dirt Road Package L that we got bids in July. We just didn't get them in time to get on that committee meeting. So that will go to committee at the end of September to recommend award for construction. We do have a Pine View Road widening service order that may need to go to committee and then council. We just held a meeting at the end of last week with the OET to look at design service fees to take the project through end of design and through construction phase. We've gotten a fee proposal from them. We think it's a little high, so we've gone over some things we'd like them to take a double look at, another look at, and bring those costs down. So depending on what that cost is, we have a signature authority for the administrator up to $1 million, and then anything over $1 million needs to go to council. So depending on where that fee ends up at, it may or may not go to committee at the end of September. We also, at the end of last week, held a meeting with our OET for Lower Richland Boulevard. This is the one because a new gas station was built at the intersection of Lower Richland and Garner's Ferry. We asked them to take a look at their traffic study and update it to show the current traffic pattern, and to also take a look at some new development that we've just found out is going to be developed on the south side of Garner's Ferry. So we met with them and we've looked at the traffic study, and they've kind of provided some information on what really needs to happen on Lower Richland Boulevard. So we've asked them to put together several cost estimate options that we now plan to take to committee on the 28th and present to council to get a feel for and get them to vote on which option they would like to go in. We know for sure that from Lower Richland up to the high school definitely needs to be 5 lanes based on the updated traffic study. And we know that from the high school up to Rabbit Run, it definitely at least needs to be increased to 3 lanes to provide safety in the area. The intersection with Rabbit Run and Lower Richland definitely needs some upgrades to handle the level of service issues there now. It does warrant a traffic signal that's not currently there. We do have the option of a roundabout, but as you know, roundabouts are very expensive, the additional right-of-way that needs to be purchased. So we will most likely, we're getting cost estimates for both, but we will most likely recommend a traffic signal at that intersection. There are also some recommended improvements to the lower, the southern side of Lower Richland. There's the new neighborhood going down, maybe not quite a quarter mile to the south of Garner's Ferry Road, where that section of Lower Richland could really stand to be widened to 4 lanes. We've asked our OET to put together a cost proposal for that. That does fall out of the original referendum termini, but we figure we would present that to council as an option if they chose to change the scope of that project. So again, we do anticipate that going to committee on the 28th. For construction updates, I'm not going to run through everything. Some of these haven't really changed much since last month. Atlas Road, we do have a meeting set up with our CNI service company this week to kind of go over a fee proposal they've submitted to provide inspection services for us. Bull Elmwood, we have 1 power pole that's a thorn in our sides that we're trying to get straightened out. Once we get that, I believe that project's going to be ready to go. We can get that advertised. It's a Dominion power pole. Garner's Ferry Harmon intersection, again, that one's ready to go except for Segra Utility Company. We have had the hardest time getting any kind of response out of them for the relocation that we need them to provide on this project. Otherwise, that project's ready to go. Lower Richland, I've already went over. Pine View, at the end of last week, we held a meeting with our OET to go over a fee proposal they've recently submitted to take that project through construction. Again, that one we hope to get on committee the 28th if it needs to, but fingers crossed we can get that cost low enough that we can just get Mr. Brown to sign off on it for us. Shop Road, we have a meeting scheduled with SCDOT tomorrow. This is one that council approved to rescope to the full 5-lane widening. So to move forward, the first thing we have to tackle is the major drainage issues at the intersection with George Rogers Boulevard. So we're meeting with DOT and their hydraulic folks tomorrow to go over the drainage issues and what needs to be the final resolution so we can move that project forward. Shop Road has a ton of utilities, so that is kind of going to be a nightmare and really drag out that design process on that project. So just to be upfront, that's not going to be a quick design process. We've been in touch with the River Alliance on 3 Rivers, the Saluda River Greenway Phase 2 portion, which is a bridge across the Broad River to connect to the Riverwalk with our current 3 Rivers project. They've been in touch with the Boyd family, who has offered up the possibility of donating funding to build that bridge if the county can come up with funding to connect where our 3 Rivers Phase 1 project stops up to that bridge. So we are looking at possible funding options for that, and that would go back to council for approval. Construction, no real issues with construction. 3 Rivers finalizing Phase 1. We had some time getting approval from the CSX to go into the right of way to finish that final phase of that project. We've just now gotten their permission, right of entry, And we are anticipating the contractor to start back in the next few weeks to finalize that one little section. Otherwise, upcoming solicitations haven't really changed much. We do have added to the list of Dirt Road Package M that will contain 4 roads that we anticipate September, October, that we'll get that one advertised. If there's any questions, just let me know.
Anyone have any questions for Allison? I have a couple, but we'll wait a sec.
Yeah. Allison, one thing that I was, and I may have just forgotten it over the years. So Shop Road, looking to expand that to 5 lanes. What are the economic benefits that are projected to do this? I mean, I know there's a lot of students on that road, but I'm kind of curious, did anybody go back to look at what the impact to the community over there at having a 5-lane road when they're used to, having crossing? There's a lot of crossings that happen there. Have we looked at some of the safety of going to a 5-lane road from 3?
Well, that's part of why we're taking that road to a 5-lane to begin with. It did have some safety issues, but the level of service out there in the 20-year projection, it's going to be a failing level of service. So that's what we were trying to address. I don't know that we specifically looked at any kind of economic impact or anything like that, but the focus is to address level of service or capacity issues with our widening to 5 lanes.
Okay. So it's basically expected growth in that area that is going to just need that without
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. I guess it was probably a couple months ago now, Allison, where we had talked about that Broad River widening project, and I think it's kind of fallen off the list now. But I think that we had said that maybe IRMA was pushing back a little bit. Maybe the extents were going to be massaged a little bit. Does that sound familiar? Is that something that's continued or has been resolved?
Actually, I thought I had updated you guys last month, but now I'm remembering we didn't have this meeting last month. So what we did is we took a step back and looked at all of our projects that were originally de-scoped. Now that we had Spears Creek have a final analysis on Spears Creek, and we kind of knew approximately how many dollars we were going to have in reserve. We went back and performed what council asked us to do, and that was take a look at all of the projects that had been de-scoped to see what made sense to rescope. And what came out of this was 3 projects that we took to council in July for rescoping, and they did approve. One of them was the Shop Road widening that had originally been de-scoped to 3 lanes that got approved for rescoping to 5 lanes. One was the Screaming Eagle Percival intersection to make that a full intersection project. And the final and third one was the Broad River widening. We did take that one back to council, and council did approve to make that a full 5-lane widening from Royal Tower back up to Dutch Fork. So that does kind of alleviate any kind of issues between us and IRMO and what they were wanting versus what we had originally proposed in our D-scope.
Okay. And what were those extents again?
It's going to start at Royal Tower and go all the way up to Dutch Fork, the split with Dutch Fork and Broad River.
Okay. Very good. I got stuck in traffic over there last Friday, so I was very curious.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries at all. I know y'all are doing what you can. I guess we get that intergovernmental agreement worked out with the City of Columbia for the Three Rivers Greenway.
Yes.
Great.
As far as I know, that's taken care of.
Okay, awesome. I saw they were cutting the ribbon today, so I wanted to hear that so I could have some warm fuzzies about it. How is the new staffing working for the Penny Department? I know y'all have a new finance manager, correct?
Really good. She's dove in and she's really started to learn our software, which was kind of good timing. When she came in, we were actually switching from one software program to another. So she got to learn it with the rest of us. She's getting her feet wet, learning the budget and how our projects tethered to, all of our money tethered to specific projects. She's really picking up quickly in all of that. So I've been really impressed with her.
Great. And I know that's got to be a lot of numbers to have to play with. So that's great that she's doing well there. North Main Street, this is one that seems to be dragging a little bit. Can you elaborate a little bit on what the holdup is to wrap that up and punch it out and finish it?
I actually do not have an update on North Main, but I can get an update tomorrow and email that out to everyone on the committee.
I'd be very curious, that last 4%, has kind of been there for a little while. And is it a utility that's in the way? Is it, what's going on there? It's
Let me
curious.
find out for sure. I don't want to say and be completely wrong.
Okay. Gotcha.
Talking about, can I jump back to staffing really
please.
quick?
Yeah.
Wanted to update everyone. We've had a project manager position available and open since I've been here. We just never really seem to get really great fits for our applicants. We did interview 2 folks last week for that position, and they're both really good. So we're actually in the process right now of narrowing it down and making a selection between those 2 candidates to make an offer. Hopefully we'll have that decision by the end of this week.
That is great to hear. My company's been looking for a project manager for the last couple of years as well. So maybe send me the resume for whoever you don't check. If they're both great, that'd be.
Well, I'll tell you what we had to do is when we solicited for our staff augmentation contract, what we did not anticipate, but actually turned out to be surprisingly good, is we had 4 or 5 recruiting agencies put in qualifications for that. So we've actually went through one of our recruiting agencies to try to fill this position. We had, I believe, 3 or 4 of them. The one we reached out to, they've been really great. They provide us 5 candidates right off the bat. And we narrowed that down to 2 that we wanted to interview.
That's great. I need to give these headhunters a little bit more time when they call. Awesome. Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.
Any other questions before we move on to the comment update? Very good. Thank you so much, Allison.
You're welcome.
But yeah, with that, we can move on down and talk a little bit with the comment. Eric?
Yes, I am here. How's
See
it
you
going?
there. Doing well.
All right. So just starting off with just our report overall, we have finalized U of SC schedules as of 8/19/2021. U of SC service for the fall is up and running. It was reported that they had about a 20% increase in student enrollment. So that is pretty significant now that, the fall semester is back. We completed our annual service route analysis that we will hopefully it'll be included in our next report. It was just approved by our board of directors last week, and we just need to clean up the document formatting for public release. As a collective, the comment has been focusing on resolving on-time performance, reevaluating XY coordinates, and things of that nature, the width of the stop buffer. It's so many things that could affect just on-time performance, but and also route alignments as it relates to software integration. Ultimately, it is the bus following, we have to ask ourselves, is the bus following what the public schedules are showing? And as it relates to what we have in our database and what the drivers are seeing on a day-to-day basis. So we're paying very close attention to that. Pretty much everything else is standard day-to-day projects. Still working to replace all advertisement benches with Gateway. That's our new vendor. And we're replacing that from our previous vendor, which was Creative Outdoor. We have about 150 locations in the queue. As far as the ridership report, last year through the first 6 months, we were about 832 passengers in. This year, we are just around 775,000 passengers, which is near 57,000 passengers, worth of a difference. We do anticipate a significant increase from August to November, as U of SC has reported 20% increase. And I guess as it relates to U of SC, we carried a total of 526 weekday passengers for the month of June. And keeping in mind, they are operating on a reduced schedule. For a total weekday ridership is up by 6%, and the routes that stand out but pose no concern are Route 1, West Columbia Soda Cap, Route 76 is Fort Jackson, and Route 77, which is Polo Road, which goes down Decker Boulevard to Brookfield. Soda Cap is consistently up and down, but I believe it's contingent upon the number of activities taking place within a month span that causes the skew in route performance. As far as Route 76 and 77, excuse me, they are interline routes. So it's a little bit more expected to see a drop in ridership on both routes because they're connected to one another. It is much of the opposite for weekend ridership, as most routes are down. So it will be more convenient for me to tell you the routes that are performing well. Route 1 is actually up in ridership during Saturday level of service by 22%, and DART service has pretty much doubled their ridership for Saturday service. Similar trends are shown for Sunday. DART is the primary service that is up in ridership by 32%. And it's pretty much trending in the same direction. It's been up since April and May. They've shown improvement all the way throughout. And trying to see what else to really mention dealing with this. Just making sure you guys are aware again that we will have the overall comprehensive analysis of all of our routes, where you'll see the route profiles and everything of that nature. You can take a look and see how things are going within any given corridor. So again, we hope to have that in the packet for the next meeting. As far as Reimagine the Comet, which is the ongoing project that we love so much, it was requested by the board to provide data trends before finalizing approval of the 60-40 recommendation, where 60% of the outcome leans towards ridership and 40% towards coverage. So after last week's presentation of the route analysis, they did approve to move forward. So next steps in this process is to work with Jared Walker and associates and see what we can do to bring in all the stakeholders again to finalize the recommendation and go back into public meetings and present our findings and what we want to propose to be the new level of service. We still have quite a timeline before we move into the implementation stages, but we are definitely pushing forward. And normally we would have a list of locations at the bottom of the Word document, our presentation, the memo there. But we are currently at a standstill. There's been a backlog right now with trying to get amenities in. And so we are still planning out, where we want to place shelters, but we are at a standstill, just trying to get everything approved and again, getting benches and shelters and semi-seats and so on and so forth in. But we are expecting for the shipment to arrive September 15th. So we should be back up and running. And I'm open to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Eric. Anyone have any questions?
Was there any, I saw that the revised service agreement with Lyft, any major changes from the previous agreement?
Not significant. It's more about data. There's obviously some interest where they want to be able to track users a little bit more to become, more aligned with, the new trends of different technologies out there in the world. And as of right now, still in litigation. So we haven't quite finalized it yet. We have to go back to our attorneys. There was something that they were trying to change in the federal clauses that our attorneys they didn't approve of. So we will hopefully get that resolved within the next couple of weeks, but nothing major in that agreement.
Thank you.
How's the super stop coming over at River Lucius? Is that coming along steady progress?
Okay. Yeah. So it's definitely one of those projects. It's up in the air right now. We are still moving forward. I know the city of Columbia is definitely looking forward to seeing this project on the ground. Because we were not able to get the approved warrants for Lucius and River, a traffic signal for Lucius and River. It kind of held up the project a bit. So now we're looking at alternative locations to install the new super stop, so we can obviously alleviate much of the buses that are pulsing at Comet Central. Mm-hmm. So we are hoping to have some resolution between the next couple of weeks, but we are excited about that and trying to figure out what we can do to continuously move this project forward.
Great, exciting to hear. And I think I saw a press release about a few $1 million in electric bus funding. Do I have that misplaced, or is that right?
Yes, so we are actively trying to figure out what we can do to get as many buses in. There's a lot of federal grant opportunities out there right now, and we're just trying to take advantage of it and see what we can do. I know U of SC, they just made a pretty big investment on a new fleet, and they have some buses on the road currently.
Okay. Yeah, someone had forwarded this press release to me that said that 2.9 million had been awarded from the FTA for low or no emission vehicles. Is that correct? So y'all are getting in line, and the funding will be coming, and y'all, I know, have sampled the Proterra buses here in Columbia. Is that what y'all are looking to purchase?
Yeah, so we have looked into Proterra. We're also looking at other vendors as well. We took a visit to the plant to see if this is the direction we want to move in. But you're right on point with Proterra. Yeah.
Absolutely. Every time I'm in Greenville, I see them running around. They look like
Yeah.
nice buses, but
Yeah.
very good. Awesome. Yeah, just I'm excited to see some electric buses around. And then are y'all going to have to modify, I guess, the Lucius Drive Center to be able to charge those buses, or y'all have those facilities in place already?
We do not. So that would be a part of the planning process. And so when we originally looked at Proterra, they have so many different options. One that charges above the head of the bus. And you'll see some of those options in like places like Austin, Texas, and
Right.
other areas. But of course, we don't have that infrastructure in Columbia right now. So that's what kind of puts us in the loop of trying to figure out what would be our best options.
Gotcha. So at this point, you know that the funding's been allocated. It's not necessarily in hand. You're planning for how to spend it. Do you have a timeline for when y'all have a plan, I guess, on how that'll be spent, and then when the funds will actually be in hand and you'll be able to purchase buses?
Not quite at this moment. It's still a process. It's more of a procurement thing at this point. So it's kind of hard to commit to a timeline right now.
Okay. Very good. Well, I'll ask you next month then. All right. Anyone have any other questions for Eric? Or Eric, do you have anything to add before we move on to other business?
Not at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Very good. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. So yeah, moving on down to other business before we jump into membership and scheduling our next meeting. I have a kind of a broad question for anyone on the line who may be able to answer it, and this may be Administrator Brown, but recently there was a DOR settlement and funds are being allocated from the county back to the program. I would love to hear a little bit more about that allocation process, where those funds will go, how they will be utilized, and maybe even the vacuum they're leaving in Richland County's funding in the process. Does anyone have any comment or update that they can provide on that?
Sure, I can provide an update. So you kind of, so the county did reach a settlement that returned back to the penny, our general fund dollars that we will use to put money back into the penny. So in terms of a vacuum, there's really no vacuum. The county is just using general fund dollars, transferring those dollars back to the penny program. In terms of how those dollars will be spent, those dollars will be used to navigate any of the programs that have already been approved. And if the county gets through all of its programs and then has money left over, the county had already talked about looking at any programs that either would require revisiting because they wanted to, for the lack of a better term, and you've used it here, rescope projects or relook at projects that maybe they thought would not be able to achieve with the current funding. But it would go back through that type of a process based off approved projects that were already a part of the referendum in some shape, form, or fashion. So really it's a transfer from one account to another. And the money will be used for the penny program, similar to the pot of money that's currently in the penny.
Very good. So the allocations from the initially approved project list will still be valid. It's just the quantities for those projects may change.
Right. So if there are projects that the county had already had in the queue, or had viewed, or for some reason decided that we need to hold off because of a concern, then the council would then potentially, if there's funding left over, go back through the process of communicating what projects we would proceed with and at what levels. So, but it would not be new projects that were not considered. The only way I can see that happening is if all the projects were done that were in the penny before the county would have to be able to go back and do any other type of process.
Okay. So this isn't, we get to come up with a wild wish list of every project in town we'd like to see done with that money, huh?
No, I don't think so. And I think it's because it is money tied to the referendum. I think worst case scenario, and this is just a guess, this is not factual, but I would think that because that money was related to a referendum, that in order to do anything different with that money, county probably would have to go back out potentially and go through a public process for that.
That makes sense. And in that reallocation process, and I think Allison may have alluded to this a moment ago, at what level does it need to go to council for approval? Is that $1 million threshold that Allison was talking about earlier, or was that any rescoping would have to go to council for approval?
So I would say that in terms of projects as a whole, any changing of those projects are really anything substantive. Ultimately, everything's going to go back to council. I guess when you say for approval, it really depends on whether or not we're talking about changing substantially what the council thought was happening versus what we're doing. But in terms of thresholds and of money, I think Allison is talking more about, what are the current guidelines that are for funding in terms of how much can be approved by the county administrator. But I think programmatically, everything will go back to council for their awareness before we would just automatically start doing things that they were not thinking we would be doing.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, and I think provides ample opportunity for review and oversight. So that all sounds great. Thank you, Administrator Brown. I appreciate that explanation.
You are very welcome. Any additional questions?
Only if you have an update on anybody who'd be considered for the next director of the Penny program. But I know that could
I do have an update. So
awesome.
So it may not be exactly what you're thinking, but I'll tell you the update. So one of the things that you may not be aware of, or you may, is that the county has an ordinance, and in that ordinance, it actually talks about titles and departments. And so because of that, there is, in order for me to do what we had talked about doing when the county was talking about transitioning from the PDT to an internal program that would ultimately be under the Public Works Department. So I have to go to county council to get the council to amend the ordinance before it would be appropriate for me to actually go out and hire for their position. So I was ready to post for that position, and then going through that process, found out that we actually have listed in our ordinance titles. And so it's not as simple as me going out like if I would in the private sector and just hiring for a position or changing a name. Right. I actually have to go to the county council and get them to amend the ordinance. So that's why you haven't seen a posting for the position, because I need to get the council to amend the ordinance so I can appropriately continue to phase that program into the overall.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes a lot of good sense, and I'm glad that we're being thorough and crossing those T's and dotting those I's to make sure we hire the right person with the proper qualifications and within the statutes that we've set. So that all sounds great. Very good. Anyone else have any other questions for Administrator Brown while we've got him here? Very good. I appreciate it, Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm going to move things around a little bit here on our agenda. I want to talk about the membership update real quick. We have Mr. John Black on the line, who is anticipating a City of Columbia appointment sometime in the next week and a half here. I think next Tuesday they have a council meeting. And so welcome. I appreciate you being here. We had a chance to catch up a little bit earlier. And so I'm glad that the city is working on filling those positions. I haven't had an opportunity to speak with county council about their status and making those appointments, and need to follow up on that. We'll continue to push. As we've stated on most of these calls recently, we have ample opportunity for participation. Tell your friends, let them know. We'd love to hear from them. So appreciate that. And then finally, our next meeting is scheduled for September 27th. I'm just pulling up my calendar to make sure that makes good sense. That'll be a Monday evening at 5:30 as usual. Let me know if we have any major conflicts or problems with that. Otherwise, I will look forward to talking to y'all then. Doesn't look like that's a holiday. So with that, I just want to open up to the floor. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or otherwise that we want to share with the group today? Hearing none, seeing none, I appreciate everyone's time very much. Hope y'all have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to y'all next month. Thank you all.